I am returning home from my trip to New Mexico. I've lit the candle that I was using on my altar there, and I've gone through some of my papers, and I selected a few 12 by 12 pieces of paper that kind of call some of the energies from New Mexico. I love this rock and water and sun, mountains, and the fog. There's a lot in this landscape that resonates with some of the energy from New Mexico. So I'm going to work with this piece of paper. There's some magic in the desert, and there's a void in the desert, and there's a desolate energy in the desert, and there's magic, and there's this yin and yang, this empty full. So I'm going to play with that energy and see what shows up. I have these oil pastels. They're water soluble, which means I can draw with them and then take a paintbrush and do another layer of magic with them. I really have not worked with oil pastels a lot. Let's see what these look like. Those look cool. Look at those colors. The earth and the water and the air. So what I'd like to do, oh boy, calling in the medicine of New Mexico. Actually, I think I might do that on the back. Let's see what we got here. Right? There's a river running. Oh, that's cool. The lines from my cardboard. The Rio Chama River, I really resonated with it. It had this white, marbly color to it. Oh my gosh, that's so pretty. Water. And there were mountains. There's this horizon line from which mountains rose. And they had a very orange energy, bright, shining in the sun, beautiful. And there were some reds. This is more purple. Oh, here we go, like a terracotta-y color. Yeah, the desert. It's just big, towering earth beings. And then there was just the real rugged landscape. Whew. There's an emptiness in it. And from that landscape, there was a lot of rabbit sage. So rabbit sage was growing. And added this soft texture to the hard sand of a desert. And it felt really healthy and alive and vibrant. Wasn't a lot of yellow in the sky. It was more like a baby blue in the sky. So that is a high-level overview of the desert. The earth, the water, the fire, the air, the solid, the flowing. I have this little kit of various art brushes that I'm gonna play with. Oh, looks like one of them just broke. And they have a round tip of different sizes. It's still usable. Da, 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 da. Maybe I'll use this one. Things break. What a lesson. So let's see how this works. I have some water. I'm going to start with the river. See how this material interacts with water. It was a very peaceful river. There were no rapids really where I was. And it was very comforting for my spirit to be close to the water. And I found myself wanting to be next to the water every day that I was there. Especially the flowing water. Winter freezes the water and it changes the energy so much. So I wanted to really be in the liquid form. Brushing up against the earth, reminding me to soften my edges. I'm going to try to permission myself to not strive for perfection with my artwork and just allow the process to be the medicine and the experience. Right? And whatever comes out of that has all of the wisdom embedded in it. So we have the water and the mountains. When the sun hits the mountains and they come alive, they are their own characters on the land. They're their own sentient beings that have their own personalities and characters. I was there for a week, so I got to see the landscape change during different times of the day and even throughout the week as the temperatures changed. It was about 18 degrees in the morning and stayed pretty cold most of the day. But a couple days in the afternoon, that afternoon sunshine would warm things up and I could take my hat and my gloves and my jacket off and expose more of my skin. And when the sun would start to go behind the mountains and it start to get dark, it was time to go home. Time to go in to my home space. So the mountains are beautiful. And the sky is big. The sky is big. I'm going to lay down some water up here in the sky, and I'm going to see how these tools show up when I paint on a wet foundation. How does that change the experience? I'm going to put water on my finger and see what that does. It kind of shreds the paper. It's not as flowy, but it's an experience. The paper sheds a layer, and so do I. Get that sun, that sky a bit more filled in. I'm appreciating the rugged lines from my cardboard backing. That's pretty cool. And get those softening the harshness. New Mexico is a harsh landscape for me. And the softer shrubbery has a good gentleness for my spirit to connect into on the land. It brings that tree of life energy alive. So this is one of my travel packs when I'm doing art on the road. You know, black Sharpie, spray bottles. I've got watercolor pencils, a little thing to put water in, a little towel, some charcoal, some tape to hold things down, an eraser. To be very precise with how I pack for the road. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with my watercolor pencils next. And so with the watercolor pencils on top of the oil pastels, I'm not sure what that's going to do. So let me see what shows up in the water. Like the water was, can't really see it. Oh, it just kind of shades in. Okay. If I write flow and grace and love and pure. And just hold those in my container. You know, and the mountains had, gosh. So the pencils are subtle, but they can pick up some of the oil pastels and move it, and so it's a combining of different materials, which is nice. That's nice, actually. Okay. That was fun to add a layer of this pencil in to that. That's lovely. So while this side dries, I think I'm going to turn the page over. This is the page that inspired it. Maybe I'll put some written words on this page. And because it is yang and it's yin, I might write with both of my hands and bring in some of that bilateral stimulation as I do these infinity signs on my paper and just activate that yin and yang of New Mexico. Ooh, ooh, ooh. So I have these art supplies, and I guess they're pretty similar to oil pastels. They're a different kind of Crayola feel. And I enjoy playing with them. So I'm going to see what happens with these. And it's a nice little case that I can travel with, very thin. So that yin and yang component, I really resonate with that. And so I have like a color to go in this yin side, this empty side. There's a lot of emptiness in New Mexico, and I think that's one of the things that's hard for me. And there's also medicine and magic and art. And when I'm there in the center, there's this yin and yanging effect. And I can just honor the swirling nature of that. And there's infinity has yin and yang. And our awareness of that yin and yang is different at all times. And I'm going to pull some darker colors in and turn it on the sides. And yin and yang is relative. It's like I can be yang, and to call in yin energy, it's just to open more slowness and stillness. And if I'm really slow, to call in more yang, it's just inviting movement. And so it's this relational, relative giving and receiving, moving and slowing down, opening and closing, inhaling and exhaling, thinking and being. And it's just this wonderful journey of co-creation with the universe. And so now I want to play with this paint. What does it do on the water? Oh, that's kind of cool. It adds a little bit of a dimension. And so like the flow of the river. There's movement, there's a shape shifting. And then the mountains are solid and strong and holding. Earth holds the water, it's the container. And then there's this yin space that has an essence of depth to it. There's a pause. There's a vastness. There's a space. It's very big in New Mexico. My fingerprints, the handprints on it. I was here, like all the hieroglyphics from our ancestors, their hands on the cave walls. I was here. I am here. Involving both of your hands when you make art. Beautiful medicine. So the shift to the page is subtle, but there's a language, there's a symbolism, there's an energy built into it now that's taken like that mass created image I bought from the pack and owned it a little bit more, and I'm starting to put some character and life and storytelling into this piece. So I'm gonna let this dry. All right, so now that it's dried, the next step that I'm going to do is I'm gonna fold this. And I'm gonna fold it in half. And then I'm gonna fold it in half again and get that crease going across the page. All right, so I folded it in half and half again. And then I'm gonna do the same, but in the other direction. So now I'm gonna go half and half. And get those creases nice and strong on those pages. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this. So there's lots of ways you can cut paper to make a book. So what you're gonna wanna do is cut 3 blocks up, 3 blocks down, 3 blocks up on your paper. And you can have this meandering M or a W if you look at it upside down. So that's the cutting template. I've cut 3 squares. I have this meandering pathway now. And then I can just under fold these pages like such. And voila, I have a book. And so now I have a little book, and there's these little snippet pages that have these abstract views into those pages I just played with. Oh, I love how that crisscross of the yin yang showed up. That's beautiful. And it goes the opposite direction as well. And so I can see these little abstract views. That's beautiful. Look how that one turned out. And I can use this as a daily journaling. So I can journal about my prayers, my feelings, my emotions. I can write poetry. And then this can become just a little prayer book that you have in your car or you gift it to somebody. It's really sweet. Here's one of the books that I made at a recent art workshop. And you'll notice I actually started writing in it and I started adding marks to it. So the original page was a darker green and I did some pastels on it. And then there were these little snippet views into the pastels and I added marker over it. Aging is a privilege. Everyone gets to be young. Not everyone gets to be old. And so I walked the labyrinth and I got some downloads, some instructions, some guidance. Once again, adding extra marks to the page. So you can make these little prayer books. I'm still working on both of these. So I have my prayer book that I was working on in the desert, and now I have one that I'm working on at home now that I'm back from the desert. So this is going to be a sweet little storyline, and then I can put all of these together and wrap a little bundled lace around it or a tie around it and keep it together, and it becomes a little journal of an amazing trip that I took. So go make your little art journals and I want to see what you create. Blessings. Yay.